Hey everyone, if you're not buried in snow, it's episode 48 of the ToonamiGAF podcast. Oh boy. Tonight we have, well, I'm Rick Zeno. Tonight we have C. Kohler.
Hello.
And from the Toonami Showdown, I almost said the old thing, we have Steven,
Hi.
aka Dr. Decimate on GAF.
Yeah, the old thing's still pretty much relevant. We basically just got rid of like 3 letters, so I think I've messed it up like 4 times. It's people get used to it.
And holy shit, news. But to start off with, maybe if we don't talk about it, it won't actually happen.
No, we're beyond that, unfortunately.
Let's just no, everything's fine.
No. One Piece is goners. Next, at the end, this week's episode will be the final episode of One Piece on Toonami.
And probably American television.
Probably American television, yeah. Like, if it ever comes back, it's probably going to come back, in theory, like, on Toonami in some capacity, but I don't think that's going to happen.
If they, want to do a special airing, it's like, hey, it's the ending of One Piece. Here are the final episodes of One Piece.
So they almost made it through every watchable arc. They had one to go, and they cut it.
They almost made it to the best arc. And
somebody did. I was going to say, somebody made a good point, though, that it probably would have been worse to end on Sabaodi's cliffhanger. That would have been a pretty bad place to stop
totally.
One Piece.
But also, it would have been amazing.
Now you get to be all like poetic and stuff with Foxy at the beginning and the end.
And Binks's brew being very close to the end. Which is almost like the show playing itself out.
For purely selfish reasons, I think I would have preferred them to end after Sabaody. Is that how you say it? Sabaody? Whatever.
It goes both ways, but go ahead.
Okay. Because that was the one I most wanted to see dubbed, just because they bring in a lot of new people there, and it would have been cool to see those voices, but
Matt Mercer was going to be on there.
He was.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's good. I've seen the dub. I've said it many times on the podcast that it's by far my favorite arc. Not just about everything that happens in that arc, but the way the pacing is in that arc, the art, the overall themes, all the new characters that are introduced, and even the most really relevant stuff that it does for the overarching story of One Piece. Like, it's such a perfect arc, and then the way it ends, one of the most emotional ends to an arc. And that's such a shame that because we were all so psyched about wanting that on the block and getting to see reactions from people. It's such a bummer.
That would have been, actually the end of Sabaody would have been, that kind of would have been a great cliffhanger too, because then you can just kind of assume the show ends there and everything's crazy.
It's like, the manga was suddenly canceled and this is what you get.
You're right. It's kind of funny because it literally ends with the narrator coming in and it's like, that's the end. He basically said something to that effect, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's how that ends. What a sad story.
Yeah. And that arc had 7 of the best One Piece moments in it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, probably.
Between the reveal of Duvall's face, the punch, the introduction of, Rayleigh.
Yeah, I just and then the final scenes. I mean, just like you'll never see Luffy. I've never seen Luffy I guess I have, but that was the moment when Luffy had his breakdown that I was just like, this is on a whole other level from anything I'd seen before in the series.
How Kizaru arrives on the island.
Oh my gosh.
I will say that watching the One Piece anime weekly has soured me a lot on the One Piece anime. So I like One Piece, and I think it sucks to see it go. just because I think I say that more from a position of liking the fact that it was on American television than liking the fact that I was actively watching it into the indefinite future.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
go ahead.
I marathoned it. Here's what happened. I did not like or was interested in One Piece until it started airing on Toonami, and even then, it took like a year of me watching it on Toonami where I started to understand the appeal. And then I went back and started the series over from the beginning and marathoned it. I
How
got
long
up
did it
to
take you?
like 2 months.
Oh god.
And yeah, but I was like, I would come home and I would watch like 4 or 5 episodes. And then so anyway, I went and I caught all the way up to Toonami, and then I was about, the beginning of Thriller Bark was about the time that I caught up, and then I was like, I can't resist, and I just kept going, and I watched it all the way to the current stuff, and yeah, it's so good. So, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's definitely got pacing problems. It's definitely stretched out a lot, and it doesn't do the manga justice at all. But I still enjoyed it. But I think it is better in a marathon and maybe not so much on a weekly basis.
Yeah, when I was getting current with One Piece, I was watching the anime up until about the middle of Thriller Bark, and I think it was actually like I think the point I quit watching the anime with Thriller Bark was actually when the pacing got a little better there. So I kind of kicked myself a little bit for that. But I don't know, just like I had seen the whole Water 7 saga in the anime form, and I thought that was totally fine marathoning it, but sitting there each week, and it might have been because I had seen it before, but the pacing just really, really got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like I think I said this when Hunter x Hunter showed up, and like I think I said I would sort of be okay if One Piece left around now, because I don't know, like I feel they're not really similar shows, but in terms of shonen that I like, I think it makes for a pretty adequate substitute in that regard, just because it's paced fairly well.
I mean, there's also the fact that Naruto Shippuden is still there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, sure, you couldn't have gone for that first at least.
Yeah, that's what leads a lot of people to believe that there was, I mean, and he said as much, that there's really a lot of issues for why One Piece left, not just ratings, but probably some pricing issues and other things. And they were having to probably renew it for a new arc or a new season. And who knows? But I mean, yeah, that's what was my very first thought was like, oh boy, we lose such an entertaining and original show like One Piece, and we got to slog through more Shippuden,
Somebody brought up the possibility that they just drop it and do a simuldub for Boruto, and it's like, yep, sounds good to me.
Oh, that was me actually.
Oh.
I stand by that still. I would totally be fine with them ditching Shippuden completely if we could get Boruto, knowing nothing about Boruto, because at least it would be new and different and not just the same old stuff we get every week with Shippuden. So,
and I mean, at least Pain Pain arc, the one that's coming up, is mostly good, but it can't hold a candle to Sabo 80.
Oh no, I think that's what bummed me more than anything was that the arc that we ended on was the one I most wanted Toonami to have a group watch with,
But yeah, the circumstances kind of feel to me like Toei just came as like, hey, we're bumping the price, and then the programming people were like, well, so our price line has now intersected with the ratings line, so no.
Yeah,
Like
though it seemed like DeMarco went. It seemed like he tried very hard to justify it from a rating standpoint. So I don't want to like throw all the blame on Toei. Like it does seem to just be that people were not super into One Piece.
I agree. And that was how I felt when I first started watching it on Toonami. Like, to me, it was that show that felt like the Odd Dog Out, where it was like, this is so weird. All the character designs are just odd, and it looks kind of, I hate to use this term, but it was very kiddie. It just seemed very childish, and
They're all screaming.
yeah, and it just didn't seem like this is a Toonami show. And of course, it takes a long time to, or at least it did for me, a long time to understand what's appealing about One Piece. But from that point of view, that A, it couldn't get ratings, and B, it's hard to get into, it does make a sense if for that show to not be on the block for that reason. So, and it's not really, funny enough, not really a lot of action sometimes. Sometimes it's just a lot of talking. I don't know. I guess it just seems like a weird show. Like One Piece always felt like the show that ought to bridge Cartoon Network and Adult Swim more than it was a late night Toonami show to me.
And they did try that sort of by running it very, very briefly after those DBZ reruns.
They did, that's right.
But nobody was having that.
That's funny. That's actually, in hindsight, I guess that was very telling.
They did start at a really bad place for that, but yeah,
didn't they start with a Boss Luffy episode?
I think
yes, I think they did.
Oh my god!
It might have been the Water 7 filler, actually. I feel like
I'm thinking back. I think it literally was Boss Luffy.
Oh.
I remember. I think it was too, because I remember thinking this is the one that they're going to show people who don't watch Toonami for the first time. Boss Luffy. They're not going to have any idea. But then I also thought, well, they're not going to have anything idea anyway. If you jump in the middle of One Piece, it's all just going to be like a Bizarro land anyway.
But Boss Luffy, even even the One Piece has filler, but even that's like, hey, this is within the same world. But Boss Luffy is just like, no, fuck it, we're weird.
Yeah. If that was my first impression of One Piece, I'd think it was about it was set in that time period. I'd be totally confused.
Yeah,
you'd be watching that, and you'd see all the bumps would be completely different. It's like, what?
I guess I don't know if this is much of a silver lining, but because isn't this kind of the only show that has probably been canceled for ratings reasons?
I think so.
I was going to ask that question, and I think it is the only show that but there was another show that got cut short, but it was like 2 episodes away from finishing, and I think it might have been a rerun.
Well, that was back when they were, contracting the block, and Samurai Jack was 2 episodes away from finishing, and they're like, eh.
Oh, okay. The Batman show.
Well, that was because they were going to lose the rights.
They were going to lose the rights, and they ended up doing a little mini marathon.
Right.
Yeah.
The worst marathon ever.
But I guess in a way you could say that they were losing the rights meant that they just didn't care enough to renew them.
Well, no. I think losing the rights is different. Is a kind of a different where it's like, we can't, because Hellsing, remember?
No, refresh my memory.
I think it's we have to do a whole new deal. Remember how Hellsing showed its first 8 episodes, and they're like, yeah, and then oh shit, we lost it.
Oh yeah.
Oh fuck. And they had to air the last 2 in movie nights.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that now. Okay. But that was more like a clerical error.
Yeah, but it's that. Beware the Batman Inuyasha. Yeah. That's all kind of oh fuck, legal didn't tell us this. This is more well.
It was the writing was on the wall, kind of.
And then Naruto was well, we just want to play. We just got Shippuden, so fuck this.
Yeah, and I guess in that context, I don't really want to say that Shippuden is next because there's not a lot of precedent for things being canceled from Toonami for ratings reasons, but I guess in theory, if something's going to be the next thing to go, it could be Shippuden.
It would hopefully be Shippuden. And if the next thing that would get canceled in the middle of let's say JoJo starts disappointing, they just finish up whatever part they're on and just not pick up the following ones.
Yeah.
But Shippuden would have to be just dropped, just cold.
Yeah, my fear would be Hunter x Hunter. I did not realize until earlier tonight when Grex explained it to me that it's 160 or 70 episodes or something.
It's 148.
148. My bad. So, but nonetheless, very long for a series like this.
But not even in the same league as One Piece and Shippuden, which were literally. I mean, we're literally just like.
Yeah,
these
they
things
were
are
never
going
going to
outlast
end.
Toonami.
Yeah,
One
exactly.
Piece will. Toonami will almost certainly. I feel like even if Hunter x Hunter's ratings get to the point, take a nosedive or whatever, they'll be like, well, I mean, it's gonna end. We can just shove it off to the back of the block.
Right, and they're like, oh, we've still got about 40 episodes to go. We can make it, Yeah, that's true. But it was the one that gives me the most pause because Shippuden's got hundreds and hundreds of episodes, I assume. Well, heck, it's still going, isn't it?
I mean, it's apparently like 2 episodes away from ending because they're gonna start it like the Boruto show, in its slot. Like apparently there's like, we finally ended it, only because we made up another show that we could continue with.
Well, I mean, I'm with Steven that like I don't want to make predictions about what shows would go, but what it did make me think about, and I think everyone did too, in the kind of when we were in our sort of grieving states of trying to get over the fact that we've lost this entertaining show, is the fact that, well, it does open up the block for another slot that we can have something new, fresh come in and out.
Something wonderful like Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh boy. Well, maybe later. But anyway, so the two bright silver linings here are a slot opens up for a rotating show, and that One Piece wasn't really going to stay good for very much longer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
How long is the Sabaody arc?
It is short compared to the other stuff, which is a lot of the reason why it's so damn good. Let me look it up really quick. Oh, well, let me look this up.
Yeah, it's one of the shortest arcs, and that's what I was talking about earlier about pacing. It's one of the best paced arcs. Well, almost no filler at all.
Thriller Bark was padded a little bit, but the arcs that come after Sabaody are like, oh man, this is when they decided, you know what? This is when they decided that we're good. So,
I've always kind of mentally compared it to the Jaya arc before Skypiea, and I always really like that arc as well.
So Sabaody is from episode 385 to 405. So only 20 episodes.
Yeah. It's almost like a normal anime. And then, yeah, and you're right. It totally is a sort of, because it is literally, well, no, it's not. I'm sorry. I was going to go down the wrong path there. It is basically, though, setting off the next 3 arcs. It's like the beginning piece of a little 3-arc trilogy, basically. So you're right. It's like Jaya in that way, where it's like teasing you into the next thing. And of course, the big arc is the one that's, well, gosh, I guess 4 arcs, really, if you want to count the Marineford. So,
I mean, the 4 are it's Amazon Lily, Impel Down, Marineford, and then everything after, but before, the time skip.
Before the time skip, yeah. But I kind of feel like Sabaody is clearly the beginning of that whole, what they call a saga, leading up right before the time skip, and which is appropriate.
I personally put Thriller Bark as the beginning of that, because otherwise Thriller Bark is on its own, and that's not right. And because Thriller Bark comes
long, though.
It is super long, but Thriller Bark comes immediately after the Ace versus Blackbeard fight. And
that's the only thing, though. I mean, like, Thriller Bark to me is still a separate thing.
But it has Kuma.
Yes.
And Kuma shows up to tell Moria, hey, we're doing this execution and shit's going to go down, so you better be there.
Yeah, that's fine, and that's a fine opinion to have. Personally, I feel like it's more starts at Sabaody because it's when that's when they reach the red line, and that's when they meet all these characters, and so.
Right. I mean, I just don't feel comfortable calling Thriller Bark a saga.
Yeah, the thing I guess I like about both Jaya and Sabaody is it both of those just feel like the arcs where Oda decided, I'm going to go real hard into the world building for the next volume or 2. And I don't know, I think that's nice, because I think that's where One Piece's greatest strength is.
But, I mean, Jesus Christ, the amount of stuff, important stuff, and characters introduced in Sabaody is...
Yeah.
Like, you get the Celestial Dragons, you get, these, Fishman characters who will come back later. You get the fucking supernovas, including, some of, there's a range of importance so far there, but you get like traffic, Law.
Yeah, Trafalgar Law. You get Beige, who's a huge character in the manga right now.
You get Kid.
Yeah.
You get
So anyway, I guess I don't want to dwell on too much about One Piece, other than to say that for people who haven't read ahead or hadn't seen the anime, I mean, it'd be worth your effort to just seek out maybe the next 3 or 4 arcs and watch those, because I think we left off at just such a great moment to watch it.
Now's your opportunity to read ahead.
Yeah, and read, I guess, would be what most people would tell you to do.
Sub 80 is basically the last hurrah of the anime being good.
Okay, yeah, like you can still probably watch that arc,
and especially because it's great to just because it has the punch.
Well, yeah. it has, and also I think has good VO performances in this arc as well. But
I don't remember how Kizaru's arrival was in the manga, but in the anime he just literally stands on a cannonball and just like, fuck you, I'm here, bitches.
So how do you all feel about Tokyo Ghoul?
I have not seen Tokyo Ghoul. I don't really know actually what it's about, and everything I've heard from people whose opinions I respect says it's garbage.
Okay, so I've been following what people in the thread have been saying, and most people say that the first season is good and the second season is basically an entire Gecko season, which is not good. I have not seen it. I do know what it's about, roughly.
Zombies.
It sort of, yeah, ghouls in particular, obviously, which are normal people who eat humans. It's kind of like a vampire story, but without vampires, basically.
Yeah.
I know that it's been. Oh, go ahead.
I haven't seen the whole first season. I've seen some of it, and I don't know. Like the main thing you could talk about with the first season was that the censorship was crazy.
We don't have that problem, though, right?
No.
Well, that depends. I mean, that depends on how much censorship was hard baked into the anime.
Yeah,
if it was sent just stuff that was sent, like there's two, areas of censorship. It can be censored between the manga and the anime, and then it can be censored between the anime and the broadcast station. And if it's censored between the manga and the anime, then you're out of luck.
A lot of it was violence, I think. And I think if I recall, they censored basically anything that had to do with eating human flesh or depicting human flesh with black bars. So,
which seems problematic.
No, there was actually a scene where they inverted the colors to censor it.
Yeah, I think the chances are good that it won't be censored. There have been a number of shows that have aired on Toonami that we've gotten what are called, like the Blu-ray releases, where it's not censored, but were in Japan. So I think the chances are good that they didn't animate the black bars originally.
Right, but even in like JoJo, where it's like, hey, we got the Blu-ray releases, there's still areas where it's like, hey, that whole area is just black. Like there is no uncensored version of that.
Oh, yeah. We've seen that? I don't remember that.
There was something a couple episodes ago. I don't remember what it was.
Okay. Well,
but what I've seen of Tokyo Ghoul, like most of the criticism around Tokyo Ghoul surrounds the way it was adapted. And I hear pretty much nothing but good things about the manga, and the anime is, let's say, not a faithful adaptation of that. From what I remember watching, I don't remember anything outright bad. It was mostly just the censorship that stood out, and I will say none of it really grabbed me particularly. So
that's my biggest fear, is that Tokyo Ghoul is going to be boring, because especially coming from a show like One Piece, because I said this many times on this show, like I like shows on Toonami that are fun. Anytime a show is fun, I'm into it. Like shows like JoJo is nothing but fun. Shows like even DBZ Super or DBZ Kai and Super right now, super fun. These shows are fun and entertaining. I don't like melodrama, just boring melodrama, and that's the impression I'm getting from this show. Is that Tokyo Ghoul looks like it's just going to be kind of a downer.
Like, the impression I'm getting is that this, like, because this was like one of the most requested shows, and I'm getting the feeling that this was the next thing after Sword Art and Akame that group latched onto, and it's like, oh boy, here we go again.
I will say it is popular in that way. I think I would say it might be more popular than the Kamiga Kill, though I don't have anything to back this up, really, just general feeling I get. But it's sort of one of those gateway shows. I think it is sort of what it became in a way. Like it got popular in that sort of way, which I think could be ultimately good for the block as a whole. Like, that's sort of the thing I clung to about Sword Art Online, is like, I think this is basically a garbage fire, but people are watching it, and lots of people are watching it, and that's cool.
Yeah, I almost feel the same way about Shippuden sometimes. It's like
I would, if it wasn't for the fact that it's all the way back there.
Right,
Yeah,
but I just mean that.
Like, it's dropped from second show on the block to fuck it.
It's just that the fact that, like, the only reason it's sticking around doesn't bother me so much is because I think there are lots and lots and lots of people who are really into that world and really into those characters. And if it brings them to Toonami and helps the block, I'm okay with it. I just think it's a terrible show.
Yeah. DeMarco said something about One Piece, and he made the point that a lot of the people who are into One Piece are only interested in the new episodes, and obviously people still watch Naruto for nostalgic purposes, but that's always sort of the impression I got with Shippuden, was that we are just so far behind now that it's not relevant in the way that, like, DBZ Kai still is somehow.
Like, in an era where everyone, like, where this shit is just all on Crunchyroll, like, you get the feeling like, Hunter x Hunter is also all on Crunchyroll, but in this case, Hunter x Hunter is like literally a dub premiere.
Yeah. So, like, people are into a lot of people are into Naruto. A lot of people still watch Naruto, and that is cool. But I guess I don't feel the current relevance is there to the same degree.
Yeah. And also, I'm just kind of like, hey, yeah, sure, they replaced it with Tokyo Ghoul, but also, man, imagine if they were like, hey, Fairy Tail.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't want to say anything because I've heard Fairy Tail's not very good, but still, probably more of a fun show than Tokyo Ghoul, which seems like a downer to me.
I mean, you
That
don't.
might be true.
I mean, sure, fun generically, but.
I mean, I have a feeling I'll never laugh once in Tokyo Ghoul. I think it's going to be like it's, you know what it feels like to me? And again, I don't really have the right to say this because I haven't seen it, but the impressions I've seen, because I think I read like the first manga chapter, but so that's all I've got to go on. But like, it does strike me as kind of like another Parasite kind of show.
That's probably a decent comparison. Though I think there were still some fun aspects of Parasite.
There were, you're right.
Tokyo Ghoul is almost what if you didn't have the fun, weird hand companion?
Yeah, or the chin guy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of forced into being like, well, I have no hope of this actually being like good, so I hope it's really bad.
It is only 24 episodes, though.
I mean, yeah. Anyway,
also,
so
if they decide to replace Naruto with Fairy Tail, I probably would not complain all that much.
Like, that's just a net zero gain.
Probably, yeah. Though I think Fairy Tail is paced a little better from what I recall.
I mean, that would be kind of like, well, we need some, wrong running autopilot to put back here.
We would get a 200% increase in fan service, that's for sure.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So they aired a promo for One Piece's last to send off One Piece, which, they didn't have to do.
That's true. I kind of didn't like it.
I mean, I kind of liked it only because it was One Piece.
Yeah, it felt a little disjointed to me.
I mean, it felt that way because they actually went back through like literally everything they showed on Toonami
Oh
to pick
yeah,
out the scenes.
but I don't know, like even when they are picking and choosing from different shows entirely, it usually feels like they have some unifying theme or whatever, and this promo didn't feel like it had that.
Right.
Yeah, I
Because
think
they didn't want to go in on like a, oh, we're leaving and we're all sad theme. They just wanted to be like, remember all this awesome shit?
well, that, and I think this was probably turned around very quickly.
Probably.
And also, I mean, at the end, I'll just say that I think their heart was in the right place, but I don't think they necessarily had the time or resources to really turn out an amazing send off. They had to do what they could. And also, they really only had the clips that they had aired, so it was, the majority of it was Water 7 stuff. And then there was like one or two shots from Thriller Bark. And yeah, it was fine. It wasn't completely memorable, but it's nice that they did it. And again, I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass because I think they had to turn this out really quickly.
Oh yeah, and it's still better than like a commercial or whatever.
Yeah, or like just a Tom VO just saying sorry.
It's
See you
better
later.
than one of their like just black with white text saying, "Hey, yeah, we canceled One Piece. Tokyo Ghoul."
Yeah, probably.
They could have gone that route. So we do know what Tokyo time slot Tokyo Ghoul is going to get, and it's going to bump down Gundam and Hunter x Hunter. JoJo is staying put,
I see the logic.
which means kind of one of two things: either one, JoJo is very solid in ratings, or two, they already know what's going to replace JoJo, and very relatively soon, and they're like, well, we'll just Tokyo Ghoul's going to drop for that anyway, so.
See, that's kind of that's where I figured they were coming from, is that JoJo's the next one up, so they want to rock the boat as little as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is any way reflective of Hunter x Hunter's reception. I think it's probably doing fine as a show, and it's more likely that they've got another big show lined up right after JoJo, and it's going to be up towards the front.
I mean, Hunter x Hunter Hunter x Hunter is dropping down because it's on for so long, it literally has to.
So it's probably never going to move again, really. Is
yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, unless they drop ship it in for another new show slot, then. But otherwise, I don't think so.
Yeah, and I imagine Unicorn's going to be replaced by season 2 of Iron Blood or Orphans, and they probably want that in a more prominent position, relatively.
Yeah. That's only 12 episodes away.
Yeah.
There's, it's like 6 weeks from now we get a replacement for JoJo, and then 6 weeks later we get a Gundam replacement.
Feels like it's all coming up pretty fast.
I've heard better things about season 2.
I have too. I have no way to substantiate these claims, and this might just be like random internet conjecture, but I heard that IBO was originally written as a 24, 26 episode show, and then they decided to make it 2 seasons for whatever reason.
Well, because I always had the opposite vibe that, hey, they wrote it like this because they know every Gundam is a 50 episode show.
Yeah. No. Maybe, but either way.
Isn't that how it goes? Like, pretty much all of them are 50-ish episodes.
I think, how long was Reconquista NG? I know Build Fighters was 26, but that doesn't count.
Well, that's wildly outside of wildly outside of the Universal Century or anything Universal Century-esque. So.
Reconquista NG was actually 26 episodes long. So.
Right. But I feel like your Gundam Wings, your etc.
I don't know, like Reconquista was supposed to be a big deal because Tomino was coming in and doing it, and apparently it went off the rails.
And I mean, like, it's kind of in the same way. It's like, hey, Mamoru Oshii's doing this thing for us. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Ooh.
Oh, he's an old, crazy auteur. Oh, shit.
That still might be cool. I don't think it will be, but
I think it's. I think I'm being optimistic about it being goofy in a fun way, where we're all going to laugh at it and just be like, "Oh, that was kind of a fun little thing," and that's my hope.
see, the main thing I think to keep in mind about Mamoru Oshii is he's sort of thought of as this great figure who made stuff way back when, but the thing to remember is that he didn't really stop making things. People just stopped caring.
Like, maybe he made a lot of stuff that never made it over here. And so people are like, hey, it's that legendary Ghost in the Shell guy. And then in Japan, they're like, hey, it's that Ghost in the Shell and also all this other garbage guy.
Yeah, he moved into live action, and from what I gather, that transition was not great.
Yeah, and also I feel like the fact that this is mostly live action is kind of lends credence to the fact that he just dropped this on them, and they were like, "Wait, what?"
It doesn't look boring,
and like they didn't want to have to explain. We don't do live action like ever.
Yeah, you said this last week, actually. But yeah,
but they can't because it's like, oh my god, we said
Oshii.
yes to this legend that we love, and he just dropped this, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. I don't want to. Yeah, I think it's too early for us to go. Oh, this is our own expectations. I think preceding what we should wait and see what he's got in store for us. And I mean, it is very cool that this is something he approached Toonami about and was like, "Hey, I want to make something." And they were like, "Yeah, sure, go make something." So I kind of like that aspect of it too. That he could just be, have creative freedom to do whatever. It might be stupid, but at the end of the day, it's better than some of the boring shows we've got to stick with on the blog.
I will say I feel like it being live action says something about probably how much money they actually gave him to do it.
That's a good point.
So, like who? Cheaper. I don't know if Toonami actually did they fund it?
I think so.
I think so too. Yeah.
I don't remember. Anyway, so before we talk about Samurai Jack, there's some Samurai Jack news. So they did their pre-stream Q&A with Gendy, and he said, oh, sure, something to the effect of, I would totally down to do more animated stuff for Adult Swim in the future.
Great news.
Which is like, oh, yes, please, oh, please, oh, please.
Though I think that question is then how far in the future, because I think he's still on board for Hotel Transylvania 3, and then they're going to make him make his own thing unless... I heard that he departed Sony Animation, but I don't know if that means he's off those projects or not.
Like, I mean, he's making this now.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I think this was an in-between thing. He said as much that he had downtime to work on this. So he may not forever have downtime.
Like, maybe he'd do something where he was more hands-off.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. And before people start speculating about shows, like, let's just throw this out there. I mean, like, I think a lot of people would go Symbiotic Titan.
That's not going to happen.
I don't even want to speculate because I think that it's more likely that, he would want to create something for this audience. And Symbiotic Titan is kind of in the middle somewhere. It did appear on Toonami, and it's a good show, but I don't know if it's in the same vein, maybe. But
I think his next thing will fail. Like,
I
don't think people will watch it in nearly the same numbers that people will presumably watch Samurai Jack, and I don't think that is necessarily reflective of what I think he's going to make. I just think people are mostly tuning in out of nostalgia for Samurai Jack, and that's cool, but I don't know that translates to staying power, that it translates to Gendy Tartakovsky now has this base that he can build from as like this established audience at Adult Swim who cares about what he makes. I think they care about Samurai Jack.
Right. I don't think you're wrong because, Symbiotic Titan did not do well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
That one was also targeted at kids who maybe didn't know who that dude was anymore, in theory, but I also think as part of it, like, people didn't exactly come back to Cartoon Network to see what else he had cooked up.
I mean, I think I would view it more from a different angle. Not so much that people want to see a Gendy show, but that his style has a certain flavor to it. And as we'll talk about once we get to the show rundown, Samurai Jack looks amazing, and it still looks amazing, and it's got a level of artistry to its composition that I think just is so great that I think if he could make another show in that style and have it be intriguing, I think it could be a good show. But I do agree with you that I don't think he in particular is a draw. I think Samurai Jack was the draw that got people to watch.
Yeah. So
we've talked for like 30 minutes about a whole bunch of stuff, but we haven't mentioned the fact that holy fucking shit, there was a new episode of Samurai fucking Jack. So let's talk about Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack episode 53, which I guess XC22, XCII. What does that mean? Is that...
That's Roman numerals.
Yeah. I just don't know what the C means.
I don't know. They're 100? No, I don't remember.
Oh, no, I know. It's like... Because the X comes before the C, which
it's episode
I know
92.
Like, I literally taught myself Roman numerals by looking at Super Bowl logos. And so I know that, like, yeah, you're right, C is 100, and the X coming before it means, actually, this is 90, which is confusing, but anyway. Holy shit!
Yeah.
It's fucking back, bro!
It was. Man, see, watching it has just made me really impatient for the next week. And I just keep sitting here thinking about the fact that I'm not watching the next episode of Samurai Jack and thinking about how, man, when this show came on, that was some like 90-minute premiere movie, and I'm not mad about that, but I'm just like, man, what if I was watching more Samurai Jack right now?
Well, you know, the first series, of course, was just like completely episodic. It didn't have really any threads carry over between episodes, and this one is like, this is just 10 episodes of one thing.
Yeah, I think
I'm just kind of like, I have to see how this Daughters of Aku thing shakes out.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of what made Samurai Jack hard for me to watch in reruns on Toonami was the episodic nature of it. I don't think it being this very episodic, quiet show lent itself very well to its extremely late time slot.
Yeah, totally with you on that.
But if it was like this stuff, it would be like, oh man, I remember last time. There's like these people, and it's like, how's this is going to go down? Oh shit.
Well, I will say two things. One is, yeah, definitely the pacing of this first episode. We'll see how it goes as it goes along, but this first episode is paced much faster and better than your typical Samurai Jack episode I remember watching when it was originally on. Those were very deliberately long shot episodes where very little would happen, and it was just all about it was more about the what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the scene, you know, and it was just like would drag out a long scene. And this is paced much nicer. But the other thing I wanted to say is, thankfully, it did not do anything I was fearing it would do, which would be some kind of design shift, a change to some like CG thing, or some change in the way it looked, or the characters would look off model or something. It looks exactly like the original show did.
Yeah, you can kind of see a little bit of CG in places, but it's done in a way that doesn't feel intrusive, which I think is impressive, because I think CG looks very intrusive with 2D animation a lot of the time, and that's never really been something I've gotten from Gendy when he did Symbiotic Titan, for example.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure that motorcycle was CG.
Yeah, I was going to say the motorcycle, there were shots, obviously it was CG, but it didn't stick out like a sore thumb, and he kept like all of the stylistic things that he would do, the way the show is edited and the way he would wipe, or we would have a scene that's all black and then there would be sparks that lit up the room and you would see the characters' faces when the sparks occurred. All this real stylistic stuff that was make this first show so great. It's all back, I think, even better than it was before.
So there's a lot to unpack in this episode, so I guess we could talk about the opening scene where he saves those adorable whatever they are.
Yeah, the little alien people, a little girl alien and her mom, who talk by their antennas forming words above their heads.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
And then here comes Jack, and he's just like, "It's Mad Max movie time, motherfucker."
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about Gendy Tartakovsky is that he seems to make things while carrying this bag over his shoulder that just has these sound effects he's accumulated over the years. Like, I was just watching the first 3 minutes of this episode. I'm like, yeah, Gendy made this all right.
And in all the fight scenes in this episode, because he only fights robots in this episode, just like in the original show, but it feels like they're really leaning into the, oh man, can you imagine if this was a person?
Yeah, that seems to be the whole buildup going on here. We've got what is essentially, I believe, a flashback to what they're called the Daughters of a Coup.
Right.
So there is a sort of woman who is played by Gray DeLisi, who was Azula in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She is a kind of priestess who I don't know if worships a coup or is.
I think because Scaramouche or whatever his name is literally has Aku on speed dial, and and I think this literally is just like a cult of people who literally have nothing out other than that to do with Haku. Like, they've never met him. He doesn't know about them.
Possibly.
They don't know
but I will
he's
say,
actually a goofy shadow man.
Yeah, it could be. But what was interesting about the way the episode worked out was that, like, we were getting these shots of these little girls being born, literally, and then which was unusual. Everybody was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And then we see this whole progress of them growing up and being trained, and their only purpose in life is to kill Jack. It's the only thing they're being designed to do. There's one girl in particular, I forget her name, Ashi, I think.
Yes.
So who's probably going to be the leader of this troop of 7 girls. So I'm assuming all this is kind of in a flashback form because, we know Jack, of course, is 50 years. He's been 50 years on in this world, but he hasn't aged at all. So this was probably happening during that time. And now they've finally grown up and been trained, and they're going out to get him. And yeah, I think the next episode is probably going to be about coming to terms with the idea that, Jack's destroyed millions of machines, but now he's actually going to have to face people, real flesh and blood.
Because the preview for the next episode had him literally just kind of repeating just nuts and bolts over and over and over again. And it's like, oh, that's not going to end well. So, because one of those girls is dying.
Yeah.
He's going to kill one of them.
Well, yeah, we've got what is this, a 10-episode series? We've got 7 of these girls, so I'm kind of feeling there's something to that maybe too. We'll see.
Well, no, I feel like, he's probably going to kill all of them.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I hope not.
And he's just going to look up and be like, oh, fuck.
Oh, well, there was a moment in the episode 2 where the Ashi girl kind of has a moment where she's kind of seeking freedom from this life. And so maybe there'll be a moment for redemption of her in the future.
Like that scene has 2 purposes. One, she kind of, goes on, like Lee, breaks free of the whole thing. Or 2, it's really sad when she dies.
Could be, yeah.
And it's really sad when the hero kills her.
So this whole episode was incredibly dark in showing the kind of loneliness and madness that's going through with Jack. And then we get to this scene with this robot named Scaramouche, who is voiced by Tom Kenny. And he is basically portraying a Sammy Davis Jr. character. And it just suddenly the episode's tone completely flips. And now we're having this wacky battle with this robot, which is, again, very Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
But it was unexpected.
it is amazing that it doesn't feel like you see, oh, that's a tone. You like your point. You know, hey, that's a change in tone, but you're not like, oh man, the tone just got wacky.
And I think it actually it sort of helps ground Jack's new-ish characterization in a way when you see him put against a goofier background and see that he's still grizzled, angry, like wanderer here.
Yeah.
So,
and we did get to hear like a line from Aku on the cell phone, and it is voiced by Greg Baldwin, who was, of course, the replacer for Mako on Avatar: The Last Airbender. So he is going to be voicing Aku in the series, but we only heard just one line from him.
Yeah.
so that can either that does mean something or it doesn't mean something.
Yeah.
They might just be saving him for later and not wanting to make him front and center just yet, or maybe something is wrong.
I don't know if you want me to tell you anything about the next episode that people have been talking about.
Because
don't say anything because I don't want to know.
Okay. I won't. So those scenes with like the leaves in the river and the fire, holy shit.
Like a river of people, a river of dead people that Jack sees. Yeah.
I am the sorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I like this. This is what people kind of wanted, I think. And I'm glad it's working, because I think when people who saw Samurai Jack when they were younger and then they got older and they wanted more of that series, I think they would instinctually say, well, I want a darker, grittier Samurai Jack. And my gut would say, well, don't change the tone too much because it won't be the same show. Well, they've changed the tone a bit, and I think it works. So I'm kind of wrong in that respect.
This is the darker... sorry.
I think it still feels pretty much the same in a way. Like, I guess I feel that what Samurai Jack did in suggesting a lot of things about, like it was a pretty violent show, even if he was killing robots. And so I think in that regard, it suggested a darkness that wasn't necessarily portrayed, but was still a little bit in the back of your mind, maybe. And so I guess the way I view this is it's making that more apparent rather than just being suggestive about it, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I follow you. I mean, I think it's just more what you're saying. It's more overt about showing these kinds of issues, whereas the other original show sort of hinted at it because it was intended for a younger audience.
Yeah. And I think that's a really tricky balance to strike, because it could have easily been made darker and felt like a completely different show, but it does feel like a natural evolution. It feels like it almost sort of feels like a show that could still be on Cartoon Network if the censors weren't paying that much attention.
Yeah. I felt that way, especially when the Sammy Davis Jr. robot showed up. I was just like, oh yeah, this feels like a Cartoon Network show again. But yeah, I have always felt that, like, and I don't want to go too much into this, but I've always felt that kids, we don't give kids enough credit. Like younger people, they can take a serious story, they can take a dark story, and so I don't think this would have any problem airing on Cartoon Network if it weren't for the censors. I think it would be a show that kids would like. If they were, in the right mindset and understanding, violence is bad and all that kind of stuff, I don't think it would be bad for them to see this.
They just might not have let him say "whip it out."
Oh boy, like this definitely feels like, okay, so like imagine you're like an 8-year-old kid and you've watched Samurai Jack and you love it, and then it goes off the air. So like what we were afraid of was it would be what the 13-year-old wanted a revival to be. But instead, we got what it needed to be, which is like what a 30-year-old thought the revival needed to be.
Yeah, but I guess also mixed with the idea that it isn't that different either. I think, again, he somehow found a middle ground to me where it's both more progressive and more adult than the original show, but then completely feels like a continuation of the original show. I don't really quite get it. Maybe that says more about the original show than it does anything else. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the original show was, I mean, they got away with all the stuff they could because of the robots.
And there was blood in the original show, and that Jack himself got cut up pretty bad a lot of the time. Like, he would always have these kind of nasty-looking red scratches on him.
Yeah,
So.
that's true.
So,
you guys got anything else about this? I mean, I other than to say that I'll just end it by, for me, just saying that, just like Steven said, I want to see the next episode. It totally drew me in. And that's saying as someone who really wasn't a fan of the original series. I watched maybe 5 or 6 episodes of Samurai Jack back when it aired, and I thought they were okay, but kind of boring sometimes. This was like really entertaining to me.
you should probably go back and watch Samurai Jack.
I know. I don't think I have the desire to. I think it's a good show. I respect it, but I don't feel like I want to watch it. But this what I saw on Saturday makes me want to see more of this a lot.
So I didn't have people pointed out that in this episode Jack literally drives away from danger.
Yeah.
And that's like, oh man, he's fucked up. Like he's literally just like done with this shit. Completely.
50 years, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I guess you also kind of have to wonder how that affects his state of mind. Like, you do sort of see him feeling guilty about people dying, but you also have to wonder, to what degree does he know things are real at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he's been living alone and fighting for survival. It's like being, like a castaway on an island. People go crazy for lesser things.
Does that mean his sword was Wilson?
Wilson!
Oh, that's a good point.
Wilson!
I bet we're going to get an episode about the sword at some point.
I mean, he has to get it back eventually.
I would assume.
Yeah, I was reading the comments on an AV Club review, and this actually didn't occur to me as I was watching the episode because I totally forgot. But he needs the sword to actually kill Aku. Like, he's stuck otherwise, and so
I think that was why that was made apparent in this episode, was to set that up. So, yeah.
I kind of in the thought that that green ghost samurai is probably not real. Like it's just eventually he's gonna have to come to grips with himself. So
well, I've got a crazy theory. I think that's Samurai Jack. I think the ghost is like a personification of something he'll become. But I don't know.
I just saw it as a creepy version or like a creepy way to portray Aku, but that could be totally wrong.
Anyway, let's move on to Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super Episode 10. Show us Goku, the power of a Super Saiyan God. And he shows us jack fucking shit, because he can't do shit.
Not yet.
But he got a punch. A punch.
And he holds a grudge.
Yeah, he's a typical Saiyan, isn't he? He just cares about fighting. And I did think it was interesting. They took a little time to give some exposition about how now that Goku is a literal god, that he has what's called divine energy. And this is different than, I guess, Dragon Ball energy, where people can sense each other. People can't sense Goku's energy level anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's interesting to me, but it is for some reason, because I'm always interested in the weird functioning rules of this world.
I just try not to think about it because then I get a headache.
You're smart to do so.
So in this episode, they show a whole bunch of stuff where it's like, look how powerful he is, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Well, yeah, he's so powerful, he almost killed everyone.
But like, none of his power demonstrations, really.
Well,
at this point in Dragon Ball, it's like, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah, well, like I'm pretty sure they split the ocean on Namek.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but like this is the formula. Like everyone, like you're tuning out of like the understanding and stuff. I tune out of the like, okay, here's the formula. The formula is two guys who are way too strong are going to have a little fight, but Goku's going to be too weak and he's going to show off, but it's not going to mean anything. And then he's got to power up and then he's going to be stronger and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's a rinse and repeat. And so we are clearly in the Goku isn't there yet state where he can't really beat Beerus. That seems to be where we're at least.
I do think they, to their credit, I think they play into that a little bit. Like we're not supposed to think Goku can beat Beerus right now necessarily because they're just sort of testing each other out. But I also think that's a little dull.
Yeah, exactly. So why did Bulma take everybody up in that spaceship only to crash 2 minutes later?
Because we needed stuff to fill this episode with.
I think everybody in the world was like, A, why are they getting in this craft if they can fly? And B, that is a stupid thing to do because there are two gods fighting each other.
And C, why is there a rocket on this ship?
Well, that's the ship of dreams because clearly they can fit mansions in the basement. So, I mean... Anything can happen
like
there.
This is straight up just Bomalago.
I really want to see a layout of this ship. Like I want to know the size of this ship. I want to see a diagram because I'm not convinced that people thought this out.
No, you were 100% right.
Like you see, it's a cruise ship, and then you see it's actually the size of a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, it's. I think that the animators were given like a script, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you need to draw this one scene where there's a mansion in the basement of the ship," and they're like, "Wait, what? How do I draw this?"
Like not even a mansion, like an actual fucking castle.
Yeah, a whole castle in the base. And so I think either we're going to go with the TARDIS answer, or we're going to go with nobody bothered to check with this.
And
the actual answer is nobody cares.
3 weeks later, they got the script, and it's like, oh shit, we got now they put a rocket coming out of the ship. What are you doing to us?
That's just kind of a helipad.
Even the Capsule Corp magic can't explain the fact that there was a mansion in the basement of the ship because it's not in capsule form. It was just sitting there.
Yeah, see, it's like they have the explanation right there too. It's like Capsule Corp, man. It doesn't matter, but God.
Outside of that, there's a whole bunch of Whis eating food with the peel-off gang.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Who are still here.
I will say that Dragon Ball Super is a lot more annoying to summarize than it is to watch, I think. Like,
yeah.
Thinking back on all of this sounds infuriating, but to watch it, like, it's pleasant enough.
Yeah, it's actually, like I said, it's fun. I am having more fun watching Super and Kai right now than I ever did watching the Cell games. The Cell games were boring and just typical, I'm going to hit you, you're going to hit me. Like this is got comedy in it and stuff. Even if it's not funny, it's still more entertaining to watch than just mindless combat.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all that was in this episode because, one Dragon Ball fighting scene at this point is just kind of the same as all the others.
Somebody says that the next episode is animated a lot better, and so I'm looking forward to that.
We had kind of a derpy looking Goku face for a brief second here.
I didn't catch it.
It was just like a momentary thing, but...
But yeah, let's talk about Dragon Ball Z Kai. Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapters, episode 108. The junior champ is finally decided who will fight against Mr. Satan. And in this episode, Vidal's shit is officially lost.
Somebody needs to make a gif of all these Vidal faces because they were great.
Like she's just pulling out the entire Mr. Satan repertoire of eye bulges. It's fantastic.
I almost feel like she's not surprised enough a little bit, but maybe I don't know, like she can fly, so she knows flying exists, and so maybe it's back in the back of her mind somewhere, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into another rant like I've done the last 2 episodes about how the people of this world can't accept the fact that there are literal superheroes all around them, even when the evidence is overwhelmingly there. But I did think it was pretty funny that the show kind of had a meta moment when Goten and Trunks were flying around, and then somebody was like, "Is flying even a legal move?"
That feels like that seemed like that guy seems like he comments on YouTube videos. The fight between them is fine. I think it engages in a lot of the flurry of punches that I think DBZ often falls back into, and as I'm older, I think I see that for being kind of lazy.
Like as a kid, you're like, "Holy shit! Look how fast they're punching!" And as an adult, it's like, "Hey, they just padded out about 30 seconds of screen time because that's just the same cut."
Yeah, I'm just like, man, really didn't need to choreograph any of that. Lucky for you, huh?
However, I will say that I think there were moments in this fight that made it interesting, like the kind of, because it's not common in DBZ to see 2 friends sparring, and these guys are clearly friends. But then the whole bit about like, promise you won't do this, and then they do it, and you cheater, and that whole bit, and I thought that was actually kind of fun, and especially at the very end when Trunks won and Goten was really mad, and Trunks was like, "Oh, I'll just give you one of my toys," and then Goten's like, "Ooh, a toy!" I thought that was really cute and fun.
It's like, oh yeah, he's 5 years old.
I like when somebody used a beam to break their fall. That was cool. I don't think it makes any sense, but
that's true. So Vegeta's one of those dads, apparently.
Yeah. I mean,
oh boy, of course
Vegeta
he
was
is.
always going to be one of those dads.
Anything he can do to one-up Goku, like he's desperate to one-up Goku. He's always like, "Did you see my kid? He fucking beat your kid."
Vegeta is like that dad who gets really angry at the soccer ref.
He'll be like in one breath, he'll be like, "My kid is better than your kid." And it's like, "You're just half Saiyan. Don't get too cocky, brat."
And then the episode kind of ends on, I think, probably the best stuff with Mr. Satan coming out, basically peeing his pants because he's got to pretend fight Trunks. And of course, Trunks gives him a nudge, which ends up sending him flying. And that was so satisfying.
Like, I have to hand it to Mr. Satan. He is a showman at heart. Like, he's literally just shitting his pants there, but he's just like fully into it. Like, let's go!
Another man would have just given up the charade by now.
That's true. That's probably his redeeming quality, is that he's willing to go whatever it takes to keep up the ruse that he is so powerful.
Yeah, like at a certain point, it just becomes impressive that he hasn't given up yet.
Like, I legit can't wait to see how he gets out of this one.
Yeah, I know. And I actually dreading it because I just know that there's going to be some idiot who's like, "Oh, he tripped," and I'm going to be like, "Did you just not see what happened?" These people in this world.
Oh, that kid who was just flying around and being a Superman and firing energy beams everywhere, but he tripped.
Yeah, and I mean, I do give the show one credit in that for some reason that it goes unexplained, they decided to give the announcer guy the actual truth. He understands that Goku and those guys are not, stronger than Satan, which is so surprising to me because I'm like, everyone else in the world's apparently an idiot except this guy.
I mean, this guy remembers the moon exploding. He was there.
Well, I have a feeling other people would have noticed that. I don't know, maybe.
Like at some point, the entire world, except for this guy, completely forgot about the old martial arts tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. Like when the Earth was in danger. Remember that? Oh, no, nobody remembers that except the announcer. Jeez. Oh, well, it's all just comedy.
I distinctly remember being really pissed off about Mr. Satan when I was a kid, but I don't know now. I don't know what's changed now. I think as a kid, I was a lot more invested in the show and really invested in like my favorite characters getting recognition. But now I guess I just sort of view it for what it is and think it's funny.
Yeah,
Because as a kid, you're like, man, I can see through this, and these stupid dumbass adults can't.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
maybe it says something about me, or it says about the fact that this is my first time seeing it, I guess. But it's for some reason grates me that these people are so dumb. I get that they're supposed to be dumb, like that's deliberate as for comedy reasons, but to me, it's not funny. It's just frustrating that they don't wise up to this idiot. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe it is also just having seen it is I just know that that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
So
I keep holding out hope that these people will wise up, but I know that they won't because I've seen Super. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen the first episode of Super where clearly the world still thinks he's the greatest. So whatever.
Like the thing is that apparently something happens where Satan actually does something that, well, at least he was worthy enough for this.
Okay.
Like, anyway, let's talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, episode 20, Young Caesar. So,
Bubble cutter.
Play it up.
Oh, I don't have it queued.
I'll wait for you.
No, I've inserted it. There you go.
Okay. Yep, bubbles.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a show as over the top as this can only make its sad death scenes equally as over the top.
I think it worked.
Oh my gosh. I wrote in the thread, I was like, I did not expect to get a little choked up watching JoJo. And it did. It got me a little choked. I thought that was a really well done scene with him dying. And yeah.
Like they even pulled off some like really sappy music in the background and it didn't seem ridiculous.
Right. And
Like,
it's
people were
cheesy.
ridiculous,
It's a cheesy thing, but for some reason it was like, I think it's because I'm invested in these characters. Like, I like them. I like these characters. I don't want to see them die.
It also kind of makes you forget that Caesar's arc with JoJo has been like 3 total episodes of like he shows up and he's like, I hate you. And then they train, he's like, you're awesome. And then he's like, you talk shit. And then now it's like, I'm sad.
Yeah.
There's the entire arc, but you
There's
don't
a
really
lot of-
care.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why this shouldn't affect me, but I think it's just because the show's fun and I enjoy the characters. I'm like, man, JoJo's really sad here. I kind of feel bad.
Also,
it's like, how dare you upset JoJo, man?
Right. JoJo's cool, man. Don't make him cry.
Also,
see him cry in like really nice animation.
Also, your cigarette is the wrong way is a great line.
I loved that scene. I loved that moment. Yeah, I did not see it coming either, where she's got the tears in her eyes, and even Lisa breaking down. That was pretty sad.
And they build up to it really well because like they demonstrate that they are totally willing to walk away from this now and just get on with it. But then it's like, oh no, now they are aware that they're just standing over this guy's crushed body.
Yeah.
And he got like crushed with a cross.
Yeah, the symbolism. Well, somebody in the thread made a good point though, that I guess he did die in his family tradition, which was saving a Joestar.
Or not even saving a Joestar, just like laying down the path for a Joestar.
Right. Just like his grandfather.
Joseph is just like out here somewhere.
Whatever happened to the hat? He had it earlier.
I don't know. They just dropped it.
Huh.
Because like I have never remembered Caesar having the hat, and on the rewatch I saw him with the hat, and I was like, wait, has he ever worn that hat? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think he had it for like the first appearance, and then maybe they just didn't have it anymore.
Yeah. They decided the headband was going to be his thing.
Yeah. But gosh, I mean, it's a fun show. It's an entertaining show. As stupid as it is, it's so stupid. This show is so dumb, but I love it. I love how stupid it is. It's so entertaining every week. It doesn't get boring. It's never melodramatic. It's totally aware of how stupid it is, and then relishes in it. I love it.
I think the funniest thing about JoJo is how it catches you off guard with its stupidity, because Like there are times when its explanations, its really complicated explanations, kind of make sense. Like the bubble thing, where he's reflecting light off the bubbles to paralyze Wamu. That makes sense. And then when he jumps out to kick him and casts its shadow over him, that also kind of makes sense. But also, also in the coming episodes, when it is going to just flagrantly disregard any actual logic, is going to be even more hilarious.
Yeah, they take efforts to make it work within their own world, even though their world is very suspect and not really meant to be taken too seriously. I like it. I mean, yeah, I like the idea of them. Oh, and maybe what you're trying to say too is, and I think I've said this on a previous episode, that like this show is creative with the powers. Like they do things that, they could just be DBZ and punching each other, but they don't. They come up with clever things. Someone even in the episode says something to the effect of like, he's a master tactician, masters of strategy. They keep thinking like 3 steps ahead of each other, and that's kind of fun.
So, like, this is actually probably the best animated episode of the entire show so far.
Oh, yeah. I think it is the best animated episode of the show, period. Like, I don't remember it ever getting better than this.
This isn't a show that I've ever really thought looked that great, honestly. I think it's kind of mediocre animation quality.
Oh, yeah.
It's got more style than it actually has skill. But
I mean, it's got a lot of fucking style.
Yeah, I think
it literally survives off of style, because otherwise it's kind of a motion comic.
I would have loved to have seen like an Imashi version of this or something where it's just animations over the top, and this is just sort of like B-team animation, but with like great storyboards, where they get them in these awesome poses and they got the cool patterns in the background, but then the actual animation itself looks kind of second rate.
So you mean like the Inferno Cop version of this?
Well, no, that's the opposite of what I meant, but okay.
Inferno Cop has more.
Inferno
Cop
has more.
Kill la Kill episode 4 version of this.
Well, yeah, or like Gurren Lagann, like where it's just like amazing, awesome action and super fluidity. This is sort of like kind of a Bleach quality to its animation to me. But it does look fine, and I'm not even want to criticize the animation that much because it's more about the fun of the show.
I think the designs are also part of why it looks as stiff as it does, because they are pretty detailed designs for like most animation standards. Like the reason something like Gurren Lagann looks as good as it does is partially because they designed those characters around animating them, and JoJo didn't necessarily do that.
Yeah, they seem more interested in JoJo and trying to kind of mimic what happened in the manga. That's the impression I get.
Yeah. Like
making the characters try to look in the same style as what was in that. I mean, they don't look as good as they do in the openings. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, not at all.
So I like how Wamu just kind of has this completely bullshit, I can just be around in the sun anytime I want to.
Oh, yeah.
But he just never uses it again.
I didn't catch why he kept going back in the house. Does it only last for a little bit?
No, there was a reason that it got, like, well, wasn't he using the bubbles somehow to like cut holes in it or something? Because what it was is he was using wind to move the air around his body in such a way that it was refracting the light. And then I thought that Zeppeli Caesar did something to disrupt that, I think. But I don't remember.
Yeah, something with bubbles.
It was something bubble related, I think.
That's fucking bubbles right there.
You got it.
Anyway, let's move on and talk about Gundam. Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, episode 10, From the Scorching Earth. So, Steven, I've been listening to your podcast, and you guys are actually a lot higher on this show than we are, because like you've been saying stuff like, hey, it's better than IBO, and we're over here kind of like, this is almost in that Naruto Shippuden range of, fuck this show, I'm just not going to watch it.
See, I don't know, because I think we are pretty negative on this show at times because I think it does a terrible job of explaining itself, especially as I've gone through some of the UC stuff. Like, all that seems so much clearer for some reason, and in most cases it actually makes a lot less sense than this does. But I don't know. The reason I think we are generally okay with it is purely the animation. In sort of the way that you cannot really give a shit about most of the story in Naruto Shippuden, but still really enjoy the well animated episodes. I think that's the case for Gundam Unicorn. And to be honest, I see a lot of people in the thread talking about how they can't get into the fight scenes because there's no emotional investment in the characters. And I don't know, like I've never really bought that because I think the emotional investment in a lot of the types of shows Toonami has aired has been sort of minimal at best. You never really feel most of the characters are legitimately going to be in peril. And I use this example of kung fu movies a lot. Nobody is ever really attached to most of the characters in kung fu movie. You're really only there to appreciate the craft, I guess. And I think that's the standpoint I take Gundam Unicorn from.
Well, it's certainly a beautiful show, and we've said this several times that it's definitely going to be at the top of the list when it comes to rating best looking show of 2017. I mean, it's going to take a lot to take it down.
I mean, it's going to take like Samurai Jack and Mob Psycho 100.
Something like that, yeah. It's such a well designed and animated show. I find the characters are fine. I
hate Benadryl.
Yeah, but not just terrible.
An episode where he just sits in the desert and whines and is like, "Kill me!"
Yeah, somebody in the thread made a point that I hadn't considered, and even though I don't have really any reason to like her, I do like the female character maybe the most of all the characters because she's the only one that seems to act normal.
Yeah, see, I was gonna say I think that's a case of being the least annoying while also being the most distinct. Like,
correct. Yeah. She had a really nice scene in this episode where she was sitting at the coffee shop and having a nice common conversation with this ordinary guy, and it was like, oh wow, this is a little bit of humanity in this show. Most of the time it's just annoying and boring. And my only note I made for this week was that this show often, way too often, just feels like an endless string of lectures. Like, I'm just so sick of hearing about, just how I'm supposed to feel or what, all this you talked about a moment ago about like understanding more about the show, having watched the other Universal Century shows. I've never seen those. I have no investment in that. So all these references the show is making are probably awesome to these people who've seen that. But for me, it's just noise. I don't like, it doesn't, nothing. I don't get anything from that, hearing about the things that happened in other shows. I just don't care.
See, I actually also don't think it's all that awesome either, because I don't know, like this, they were going about cyber new types for a while, and they did a really poor job of explaining what a cyber new type is, when it's basically just like a genetically modified person who's supposed to be really good at shit. And like, see, I explained that right now better than the show did in about a 5-minute monologue from Not Shar, and
the show is really proud of its technobabble and having characters explain things in a way that you're supposed to already understand it. And that's a good example of it, where it's like they talk about cyber new types like I'm supposed to have heard that before, and I've never heard that.
Yeah, and like knowing what a cyber new type is now, and if I go back and watch that, I also think that scene doesn't mean a lot to me either, because like he gives this really long monologue, and I just to basically say we were testing her. So
yeah,
the show as written is poorly written, I think, references or not. That being said, I think it is cool that Bright finally showed up, and I can't really articulate to you why I like Bright, the green-haired guy with the weird eyes.
I mean, the guy who was literally just drawn in an entirely different art style.
Yeah, basically, even he still kind of has that weird fat face that everybody has. Like, I think that woman who has her boobs out is supposed to be like a fan service character a little bit.
The old
But-
woman?
Yeah,
Maybe.
but I don't think she's supposed to be an old woman.
She's got a jaw on her that does not strike me as supposed to be drawn attractively. She looks like a real manly woman. I don't know.
Like, she is that character who, if there was an honest trailer of this, she would be that character who, in the credits section, they just like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, or voiced by a man.
I don't know. It's weird though, because they gave her the face that everybody else has, and everybody has this really weird square head.
I like the character designs. That's probably the biggest thing I like about the show outside of the great animation is I like the look. I said this from the first episode. The overall style of the character designs, yeah, it kind of harkens back to 80s stuff, and I like that. But what was I going to say? Oh man, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But you were talking about what were you just saying about the new types? No, anyway, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like,
okay. Well, I mean, it's just the show. I mean, again, it's a very pretty show. I do watch it because I like looking at it, but I don't like the kind of melodrama, and I don't feel attached to the characters that much. And so for me, it's kind of boring.
I think it is better. I think it can be kind of boring too. I think it's better than IBO just in the context of I think it knows what it wants to say a little better than IBO does. I think IBO as a show was just horribly confused about its overall message, and I don't really
IBO has the opposite. Yeah, I think IBO's problem was clearly its narrative, but what IBO had was a few characters I liked. And this show doesn't really have many of those or any, except for, like I said, the girl whose name I can't even remember their name, but she was actually kind of nice in this episode. She's always been like an interesting kind of tomboy, sort of, smart young woman who I think is a cool character. Benazer is forgettable. He's just boring, and and these other characters who keep dying around him. I can't care. I don't care that these characters are dying. They don't mean anything.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't really latch on to anybody in IBO. I think I found Mikazuki a little too much of a blank slate, though I think in hindsight I'm probably going to appreciate him a lot more.
Yes, I've exactly the same feeling. I thought he was really like robotic, but then he still has more going on, I think, than Benazer.
Yeah, I think the fact that he doesn't bitch all the time.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's huge night and day. Like he's just like, show me who kill, and Benazer's like, I'm gonna kill you, Bo. Want to just kill me? Oh fuck me.
And I thought IBO did a good job with Biscuit as a character. I thought Biscuit was memorable, and I did feel bad when he died. And I thought it was one of the few characters I did not expect that from that show, and that surprised me.
I think IBO did a poor job of managing characters I could have liked. Like I felt that I could have liked Biscuit, but it felt like Biscuit was really prominent in the first 3 episodes, and then sort of took a back seat for a while, and that sort of seemed like how it was with Orga too.
Yeah, what they would do is they would bring the characters up to the forefront right before something drastic was going to happen. They did that 3 times. But like another character, again, I can remember these characters, Atra. So Atra, who I thought was a terrible character for like the first 10 episodes, has a really amazing moment where she turns around and becomes kind of a badass. And I thought, go Atra. That was great. Like, what a character redemption in this show. And I mean, she wasn't like the greatest thing ever, but it was a huge turnaround. Again, I can't even name the characters in Unicorn. I can't name them except for Benazer is the only one because I hear his name all the time. Audrey, yeah, I think, but she has like 2 names.
That's her name.
Well, her fake name is Audrey, and her real name is Maneva Zabi.
Yeah.
And then there's also Marita Cruz, and that's basically it.
Okay,
Oh,
you
and
have to
who could-
remember full
and
frontal.
Who could forget Full Frontal?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Almost not
I
even-
definitely remember Full Frontal, but for the wrong reasons.
That's almost not even a real name.
Is
He
it
has
though?
a real name.
Is it because they refer to him as Frontal in the opening narration? So that
Oh, re-
implies that this is a last name.
It's clearly a name
Frontal,
he gave
full.
himself. Frontal. Yeah, is in Japanese. Is it family name first? Frontal, full, or is full his family name? Is we getting it wrong this whole time?
Huh.
I can just imagine them being like Frontal Fool. Oh, jeez.
Full frontal.
I've been told by one of the guys on our podcast that he's heard that the people who, like people in Japanese, when they type his name out, they use the kanji for like nudity or whatever.
That's awesome.
I
No.
don't know if that's true, but I really hope it is.
All right, I got nothing else on this show. If you guys want to move on,
I just want to
oh, go ahead.
Bright.
Oh,
I don't know. The main thing about Bright, I'm working my way through Zeta Gundam right now, and I think the main thing about Bright is that he has slapped the shit out of two separate Gundam protagonists, so I have high hopes.
I remember what I was going to say a moment ago. Is about this. When they showed the scene where that character showed up, the green-haired guy you're calling Bright, and until you mentioned that he was in the show, I thought that was a flashback. I thought that was like another show clip we were watching as reference for what's going on. It didn't even occur to me that was happening in the same place as this
That was
show.
weird. Like, it
Pardon?
started the episode out, it seems disconnected from everything else. I'm actually not sure. Like, if that is a flashback, it might be a flashback.
If he is in the show, then I am like confused because he just came out of nowhere. And I thought it was one of these situations where like, oh, let's show something that happened in another Gundam shows to kind of bring reference to what's going on here. I didn't
None of
even
them are nearly as well animated as this.
No, but I meant like in the sense of like they're re-showing something that had occurred.
Oh,
Like
okay.
like they had reanimated it, but like this is something that happened in Zeta Gundam or something like that. Because I was like, who's this green-haired guy? I've never seen him before.
Yeah.
So whatever. But that's all I had to say about that. It just came out of nowhere. Didn't understand it.
So let's talk about Hunter x Hunter.
Okay.
I
need to- Can I go do something real quick?
Sure.
I need to put something in the refrigerator.
Okay.
Go take your time. I didn't think we would talk that long about Unicorn.
Well, it's because we've had our the ToonamiGAF opinion, which is that whatever, and then
It's
there's a whole
interesting to
nother
hear.
one out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
All right. I'm back. Sorry about that.
Okay, let's talk about Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter episode 42, Defend and Attack, in which, they arm wrestle some people.
Yeah.
For
You guys
money.
did you guys all look this stuff up on Erug? The Google clone.
Look it up on Uruguay, the Mad Monk.
Yeah, that was funny.
That just sounds like some kind of hentai site, saying it out loud.
But
So-
here's Leorio again.
Yeah,
Leorio
Leorio's
missed you.
back.
And he's just like, oh yeah, I know Nen. And then he doesn't.
he doesn't know it. Yeah.
I
I'm surprised
mean,
he's back.
that's
Actually,
that's a Leorio thing. I don't expect that dude to know Nen.
I don't really understand what Leorio's role is in the show, other than he's just kind of comedy and interest. He's not really a fighter, so he's an interesting character. But yeah, I agree. I don't think he's supposed to know Nen. He probably will at some point. Yeah, we got the arm wrestling scene because they wanted to use conditional auctioning to make some money, and we got to see one of the Phantom Troop, the girl with the glasses. She's real cute. She's got like a big,
literally the least threatening looking member.
yeah, with a really soft voice, and she's got like a big turtleneck on, and apparently she's a badass. She's Gon, the freaking super strong Gon, could barely hold his own against her.
And
You
she's
gotta
just
be
like,
careful of anybody in a turtleneck, man.
she's just like, I wasn't even using my dominant hand, or really trying.
What did you say?
Like she like they
No,
literally was like,
I meant Steven. What did you just say?
I said you gotta be careful of anybody in a turtleneck.
Oh, unassuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before she wrestled him, though, we got to see, like, I think Tampa's older brother, the guy with the square nose.
like I saw like the lower half of that dude's face, and I was like, is that fucking Tampa?
Yeah.
Oh boy. This episode had a really great Hisoka has a murder boner but doesn't really tell anyone about it scene.
Yeah, what's new? He's always that way.
He's just looking around like, could I kill this motherfucker? And then he looks around. No, I probably could not.
I saw in the thread that was an anime-only scene, and that makes a lot of sense to me now because I don't think Togashi is big on silence. He's he's kind of the anti-Gendy Tartakovsky in that way, in that this dude likes to explain everything.
Yeah, I see. Well, speaking of explaining, we got to hear basically Melody's backstory, which was interesting. Basically, there is some kind of music in this world that if you hear it, it will like fuck you up.
It will turn you into a balding rap person.
Apparently, yeah. And then her friend, I guess, heard more of it than she did and died. So that was interesting. At least it explains why she looks that way. I don't know why it causes male pattern baldness in women, but there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's just basically like, so Kurapika in this episode is revealed as a whole stone cold motherfucker who will just end anyone.
Yeah, actually, kind of made me a little not like him a little, just the way he was being kind of an ass. This girl is so nice to him and actually really polite, and he's just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna kill you if you do anything, and I'm like, come on, man, dial it back a little.
Well,
like she seems nice, but
yeah, I guess
they all came into work.
View, working for like somebody who is going to go and buy the eyes of like his dead clan, so he's probably a little on edges. Now I took it, I don't know, but I think it's cool actually the way that they don't introduce his character this way, and I think that's interesting. You see Kurapika immediately go into a group where he is like among Gon and Killua and Leorio, he's immediately accepted. He's friendly with them. Everything's fine. But then you sort of pull out and put him in another group, and he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, it's literally like if you talk shit or get in his way, he will end. Like, because remember, first episode, he was ready to gut Leorio on that boat because he talked bad about the Kurta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's supposed to be a nice guy. I just thought that, like, I don't know, there's sometimes characters seem like mean for the wrong reasons, and he just seems like he's not willing to even crack a smile ever, and that always bothers me with characters when they just are, you know, almost robotically emotionless. But
I think he's cracked plenty of smiles.
I don't remember a single one, honestly.
He doesn't like go full like he doesn't show his teeth, but he just like smile.
I will say though that scene was really well.
Again.
Yeah, can he smile again? Maybe the song was about him. Anyway, I did think that scene was really well done. Like, there was a lot of tension, like kind of under the surface tension, that was really effective in that scene.
No, these hand things weird that she does. Like, she does this little conductor thing when she's talking about sound, and I guess mentally I picture it as like moving back and forth like a metronome, but I've always found that kind of, I don't know, a little creepy in a way.
Yeah. Well, I guess it makes sense that like now now it makes sense how she can like she's just musically focused character, I guess. She can listen to someone's heartbeat and then like hear their emotions because it plays a certain rhythm or something to that effect. Like she's clearly based all around music. I still don't know what she's going to do in a combat situation. I don't even know if she does anything.
I mean, I guess she's literally the bard.
Maybe. There is that one girl on the Phantom Troop who is like the medic, but I would assume to be in the Phantom Troop you'd have to have some combat ability. But I don't know. I guess I'll find out.
So the Phantom Troop in this episode, they decide that, they go with the time-tested, stealthy approach of just get in a fucking hot air balloon.
No, wasn't that Tom? Wasn't that what's his face's brother?
No,
that was the Phantom Troop. In their Phantom Troop had
under
hot
the
air
cover
balloon.
of night, they in a very sinister fashion, light the little fire that's going to raise their hot air balloon. And I was just,
okay, I got that confused.
was funny.
I do remember that there was a scene in this episode where the fat otaku brother is now like leaving the house for the first time in like a decade or something to go and find something.
Like this game is that big of a deal that he's like, I'm gonna leave the fucking house.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And I'll kill 15 people for $15 million.
I think it was billion.
I think it
is. It's billions, yeah. It's ridiculous. Like I mean, although really, truthfully, we don't know like what the exchange rate is for a Jenny, so who knows?
Yeah. Oh.
Why is it a Jenny? I mean, who cares? But it's just funny to me. Like they didn't use Zenny, they used Jenny. Every other show uses Zenny.
I don't know.
What is Zenny?
All I've ever assumed was that it's just like a generic fake money type that like kind of like how like a lot of cartoons use Acme.
Oh.
I thought Zenny was like, oh, it's like, make believe money, and so many shows use it because of that. That's what I thought, but I don't know.
I don't know if it had like any actual significance, like if it.
Well, I think the word means like money, I think, but I'm not sure. I don't know where it came from. Somebody said, I think back when we were watching Kill la Kill, and of course we got what's his face with the Zenny Master. Somebody said in the thread that Zenny was something that used to appear in like old JRPGs and stuff as a kind of currency.
Oh yeah. Oh well.
Again, I remember them saying Jenny and thinking, wait, it's Zenny, not Jenny. Whatever.
I feel like somebody said something really ridiculous in this episode about Nen, where it's like, Nen can't do that, and then in this world, Nen can literally be the internet.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was Leorio. Which would be a very Leorio thing to say, but that's probably slander. Anyway, let's acknowledge the existence of Naruto Shippuden. It exists. Moving on.
You didn't even introduce it.
I mean, fuck whatever. I'm mad at the show and the fact that it continues to exist now.
Can we just all call the Six Tails the bubble user?
Fucking bubbles!
Yeah. They did show the full opening for some reason. That was a little odd.
I heard about that.
But yeah, it was more filler stuff and pretty unmemorable. And we did have a bubble battle again, which is always fun. Well. There was some like really good animation in this episode. The budget suddenly went up a ton for just like a couple scenes.
It's like okay, we've really got to get this cut of this girl handing them the paper bomb. Just
that's
really,
what it was.
This has to be nailed.
Yeah, that looked really good for some reason. Them blowing up a little girl practically. Oh well.
Watch this episode.
I mean, you're a smarter man than us.
Shippuden exists, and it still continues to exist. And I'm going to, for no good reason, maybe kind of look forward to the Pain arc because you guys say it is okay.
I hear it's good up until the ending.
Oh yeah, the ending
What
is
I
a
hear.
fucking dumpster fire that basically from that point on, there's nothing good about Naruto, period.
Wow. Well, we'll
I
see
mean,
what
it's
happens.
pretty much where the infamous talk no jutsu thing comes from.
Well, we've had plenty of that already.
I mean, but this is it's really egregious.
I'll tell you what, I do want to say one more thing about Shippuden and Naruto in general that just drives me up the wall. Whose fetish is it that we have to see people jumping through trees? It is never ending. Like, I don't think a single episode goes by where we don't get shots of people jumping through trees.
See, I was trying to I understand the purpose of having people jump through the trees, like for narratively stalling, but I'm trying to think of like some kind of equivalent in other shows, and I just can't. Like, I don't think anything is actually this blatant about it.
It is like, it's just like we have to show people going from one place to another, aka they're ninjas, aka they must jump through trees. I think that's about the rationale of it. But like, oh my God, I'm so sick of those shots. I mean, they just never, and they're never animated good at all. It looks so stilted and artificial.
It's literally like they're literally just flying.
They're just flying and then toe touching a branch every once in a while, but flying in a way that like you would take a cardboard or a construction paper cutout of a character and just like drag it along a background, and that's what it looks like.
God, this show.
Oh well.
Oh boy. Let's talk about One Piece. One Piece 383, The Great Scramble for Treasure, Collapse, Spa Island. What the? There's three sentences in this.
Did you see they screwed up the title on this episode? It's supposed to be Collapse Spa Island, but they screwed up the title and they ended the sentence with collapse and then started a new sentence with Spa Island.
That's literally just what I read.
Yeah, it's wrong.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
That's not what the title's supposed to be.
Anyway, so in the last episode, the villain was like, I've got your girl. And then it's like, what's Luffy going to do? And it's like, he's going to do the most Luffy thing of all time and just say, break shit.
Yeah, that was fun.
Like, he's literally just like, break stuff.
Animation, again, amazing. Like, they got their A-team animators in to do this filler episode. Even though it's stupid, it looks great.
I wonder if that guy who pointed that like overly ridiculously sized cannon at that one girl might be a bad guy.
Nah. Yeah, that was overkill, but like you're not supposed to think too much about it because it's silly filler, I guess.
And then, filler, they break the thing, and then there's an X, and then there's some rainbows, and it's like, oh, we should combine some colors. Oh, we made one of those like little like glass and like sand inside glass galaxy things your mom has a cabinet full of.
Yep.
And that's
it was apparently rare in the One Piece world, but yeah, the story is dumb. It's throwaway and what it is, but it's more about just like, hey, let's have kind of a beach episode, sort of, in One Piece, sort of, and that's basically what it was.
I'm gonna miss Foxy's voice actor.
Yes.
I couldn't even do it.
Yeah. Again, I said this before. Like, it's as far as fillers go, it's not offensive. I mean, it's certainly no Captain Puzzle. It's just mild, fun, simple, forgettable. In fact, I think that the final episode of One Piece that will air on Toonami this week, it's an okay episode. It's more character based around Brooke, and it's a filler episode, but I don't remember it being particularly memorable, honestly. Feels like we're kind of going to go out on a whimper.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that next week, I guess.
Yeah, unless anyone else has anything to say, I'm good. No. Okay, well then. Thank you, Steven, for being on here.
Yeah.
especially for this huge news week.
Oh yeah.
Like suddenly we're in a period of massive upheaval.
Yeah, I had to come in to mourn. You know, I had to have our funeral episode, I guess.
Well, I guess that'll come next week for the real funeral episode. Thank you, C. Kohler.
No problem.
As always, we'll see you guys next week for episode 49. Good night, everyone.